let's start to add some buildings onto our cityscape. So again, whenever we are starting with any type of shape, we are always going to start with a line. So I'm going to draw a short building that is going to be below my horizon line. And I'm actually going to use this this corner right here as my base, as my beginning point. So this is not going to be a super tall building, and this one is going to be a pretty basic one. So I'm starting with my line. I've already got the bottom of my line going back to both side vanishing points. Now I need to take the top corner point and go back to my vanishing points. Now, one thing that I'm also going to kind of figure out is how long I want my box or my building to be. And I'm going to stop my line there. I could even have it be a rectangle. It doesn't have to be a square. So I could have it longer on one side and shorter on the other, which is what I'm going to do. Remember, at these corners right here, you take your ruler, slide it back, keep it parallel to that beginning line, and draw a straight line up and down. Do the same thing on the other side. Pull your ruler, keep it parallel to this beginning line, end it right here. All right. Now, these two outside corners are going to go back to the opposite side vanishing points. Now, in our project, you're going to end up stacking boxes on top of boxes. So you want to make sure that you aren't drawing too heavy, so that you can erase some of your lines in order to stack some boxes one on top of the other. All right. Now I'm going to add an opening to the front. So I kind of have to decide, you know, what's the purpose of this building? Is it, since it's in a city, most likely it's going to be a business, or it's going to be, you know, some type of office building. It could be a store. It could be a church. It could be, you know, any type of building that you might find in the city. So because it is, I'm going to make this one a little retail store. So I'm going to have two openings. So I'm going to make this one a double door like this. And I'm going to make the opening of it recessed just a little bit. So remember how we added kind of like an inside frame? The corner of this line goes back to that vanishing point. The side of it follows my original line right there. This line will mimic this line, but to make sure, what I do is I connect that little tiny corner right there to my vanishing point, and I pull away just like this. All right. Now that's kind of like a frame on the inside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply divide, since this is a double door, I'm going to divide it in two. I'm going to add two little doorknobs like this. I could even add a window on to this if I wanted to, just using the same method that I did with these. All right. I can add some windows onto it, but this time let's make our windows a little bit more interesting. So what if I did an archway above this? And so what I want to actually do is I'm going to start off with the bottom of my window, and I'm just going to do this one right directly above the door. Okay, so I did a line going back to my vanishing point right above my door. Right now, what's going to happen is if I want to do an archway, kind of a semicircle. Then I'm going to lightly draw in this semicircle, leaning like it's going towards my vanishing point back here. All right. Now, just like we did right here, from this little corner, we're going to go back to the other side vanishing point. The angle that what happens with this line is that it is going to follow the curve of this line, but it's eventually going to disappear. Okay, it's going to kind of merge into it, just like this. All right. The bottom line, just like with the door, double door that we just did, is going to go back this way right here. Okay, so here I've got a nice little archway. There's a window right there. Really, really nice. That adds a nice touch to the outside of my building. Okay, now before we get a little bit too much further, I'm going to do something different on this side. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tent type shape, kind of like an awning, above the window, or above, above the doorway that I'm going to put over here. So first of all, I have to know where my door is going to be. All right, so I'm going to put the door here, going back to my vanishing point, like this. Because I'm on this side of my box, that furthermost corner on the opposite side is going to go. So it's opposite of what we just did. Put a little line there. Guess the side will be a little bit further open. Now this little line at the bottom is actually optional. You don't actually have to have this line, but it makes more sense if you do. All right, and I'll just go ahead and make this a double door as well. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to add an awning that is basically going over our open doors. Okay, so let's take a look at two different types of triangles here. This is what we've essentially done first, but now what we need to do is we're actually going to be putting in a right triangle because it attaches to the side of our building. All right, now this is going to look a little bit strange to begin with, but trust me. So I'm going to start with a line. Okay, now what's a little bit strange about this is that the bottom of the line is going to connect back to my vanishing point, and it's actually going to come forwards. Okay, now I'm going to end up overlapping the top of my door a little bit, and so I'm going to erase a little bit of the top of this door. Okay, now so I've put in a vertical line parallel to my corner of my building. The bottom of that line actually extended forwards. Okay, and basically I'm just deciding how long I want that awning to stick out. Okay, so I want mine to stick out from here to here. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to connect these two lines, the corner, the top of this one and the bottom of this one. From this point, I'm going to take those two corners and they're going to come back to this side vanishing point. I'm going to have it extend a little bit past my door, like this. Okay, I'm going to put my ruler on the angle of this triangle and pull it back, keeping it parallel, decide how long I want that to be, and then I will simply close it with a line that is parallel to my beginning line. Erase any lines from my doorway that I can see through this. And there I've got a nice little awning for my people to go through as they're walking through. If I wanted to add some decoration to it, like maybe some stripes, you know, imagine it kind of like in black and white or white and red, whatever kind of the traditional awning look is. Just like that. The sides of this could go straight up and down. Just like that. Okay, I could even add little scallops on if I wanted to. Just like that. Okay. Now let's do some more to this before we add in some other buildings and add in some different kinds of windows. One thing that I want to show you is how to do kind of a brick or a stone look. So our brick will actually go into perspective, or our stone. Now the important thing to remember is that you want to start off with a fairly equal amount of spacing on your things. And so I put little dots here just so that I would remember and kind of figure out the spacing ahead of time. Now I'm not going through my door and I'm not going to go through my window. I am just going to do in the background. Now this would be done after I added all my doors and windows. Okay, it's really kind of a pain if you have to end up going and erasing all of the work that you just did right here to add some more doors and windows. So let me just do this really quick. Remember, you're always going back to that little, to your vanishing point. Okay, so there I've got some stripes on my building. Now, those are just stripes. If I wanted to make it look like brick, then what I would do is I would put in lines every other section. Okay, so I put a line, skipped a line, put a line, skipped a line, put a line, skipped a line. And now in the second row, what I want to do is I want to space it out a little bit. Make sure that my ruler is parallel to my beginning line. And in the alternating sets of lines, I'm going to come back. I'm going to add some lines there. Then I'm going to go back to my top line. I want to keep this amount of space consistent with this amount of space. Now here I'm running into my door and window, so there's not a whole lot to add right here. Then I go back to the second line, keep it the same distance as this, and so I can kind of put a little mark there, making sure my ruler stays parallel. You're always checking for that. You're going for every other one. So here I've got part of my window, and I added a little bit on this part. So it's important to kind of keep track of where you are. So my next one wouldn't be until down right here, right above this. So put a line, skip a line, skip a line, put a line, skip a line, put a line. Okay. It gets a little bit tricky over the when you're going around the windows and the doors and such. So I'm back in a clear area, and that makes it a little bit easier. There we go. Okay, so there I've added brick to the front of my building. All right, now let's add another building, and this time what we want to do is we want to put a triangle on top of it. Okay, so what you have to remember when you're starting your next building is that you want to think about, you know, is there going to be space in between these two buildings? Is there going to be, you know, is one maybe set back a little bit further? It all depends on where you put that line, that very first line. So for example, here's a couple. This is one, of course it's going above the horizon line, and so we're not seeing the top of it, but that's okay. So this kind of is what we just did right here. Now to start my next building, I'm actually going to leave a little bit of space between the end of my first building and the corner of my next building so that I can see a little bit more of the side of the next building. And so I'm going to scooch this over a bit, like here. And this one, again, I'm still going to do this one below my horizon line, but it is going to have a triangle on the top of it, a tent on the top of it. So we've got our corner line. The bottom is actually already going back to our vanishing point, which means we need the other side to go to the opposite side. Now I'm gonna stop it when I get to this building right here, because this building is behind my first building. And so I don't want to draw a line through a building. It's not made of glass, and so we need to be able to not see through it. So the top line, I'm just going to decide how long I want it to be. I think I want this one to be a little bit wider. Just like that. Okay, so this is the front of it, this is the side of it. The top of it is going to go back to my other side vanishing point. I decide how long I want that to be, and then I will end it like this. And right now, because I am going to be adding a triangle onto the top of it, I'm not going to draw the top of this like we did this one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to decide, where should the triangle be? Should it be on this side or should it be on this side? Well, it just depends on which way you want your roof to pitch. Okay, I want my roof, I'm going to look and see where's the middle of this, approximately right here. I'm going to take a line, and my roof is actually going to come up above my horizon line. So I'm just going to put a little dot here. The dot is going to come back to the corners of my box, like this. Okay, now I'll erase the horizon line that is going through my box. Okay, and I'll actually erase it back here as well, since I'm in the process of doing it. The top of it is going to go back to the backside vanishing point. So it's going to start to take an interesting look here. Okay, that slopes backwards. I take my ruler, I keep it parallel to this beginning line, and then when I get to the corner right here, then I'm going to draw my line going back. Now, I didn't draw my first line long enough, so I just need to extend that a little bit, just like that. And there I have a almost kind of like a house on top of mine. Let's do this. Let's make the front of these, let's make some extra tall windows. Now I could add a door onto this. And I think I'm going to do this door. I'm going to have it have a curved roof on it. Like this. Okay. To do the doorway, it would be the same as how I did that window in my previous one. This is going to come straight, and then when it starts to curve right here, then this curve is just going to follow that curve right there. Bottom of this will come towards us because it's connected to our vanishing point. There's a little doorknob. Let's add a fireplace or a chimney basically onto this. Okay, so because it's following the slope of the building, we're going to have a few things that are different. Okay, so I'm going to start with a line like this. The bottom, and actually I'm going to extend my line down a little bit further so that it's below my horizon line. Top and bottom go back to the vanishing point. End it. Erase your horizon line, or not your horizon line, your roof line going up. Now this is a side. So what's going to happen right here, this is a little bit different. Instead of the bottom connecting back to my vanishing point, what I want to do is I actually want to use the same angle that I have right here with the bottom of my chimney, because it's actually following the slope of that. Now the top of it is going to come back to my vanishing point like this, and then I will close it with a line going up and down and erase this roof line going through it. Okay, just like that. So there I've got a little chimney that is coming up. Let's add some more buildings to our design here. So we've added some buildings onto the right hand side. This time let's add some buildings onto the left hand side. This time, instead of there being a gap in between my buildings, I'm going to pretend like they're actually connected. And this time I'm going to extend the corner of the building so that it is up above the horizon line. So I'm simply going to take the existing line that I have right here, and I'm going to extend it higher, just like this. Okay, now remember that this line right here is basically the corner of our box right here. So the bottom is already going back to this side vanishing point. the bottom of this one is actually behind this building right here. So I can't draw a line here because they're sharing a wall. I can, however, take the top of it and bring it back to my vanishing point, just like this. Okay, kind of deciding how long I want that to be. I might adjust it or I might just leave it. We'll kind of see. This one is going to go to this side vanishing point, just like this. And then I will simply take my ruler, slide it back, keeping it parallel to my corner line. Take the other side. I think this one, I don't want it to end right at the corner. I think I'm actually going to have it end a little bit further in, just to show a little bit of variance between them. And then I am going to erase my horizon line that goes through the building, just like this. Okay, now let's add some decoration onto the side of this. Maybe I want to add a sign, and we're going to add some long windows onto it. So let's add the sign first. So I'm going to come here, and since this is the front of the building over here, I'm going to keep my sign on this side. Top and the bottom go back to the vanishing point. So this is going to be kind of a long sign that takes up the whole space. All right, here we go. And now I can draw my letters for my sign inside of my box so they fit. So let's say this is a place where you can buy shoes, all right? So I would just simply draw in my sign. Now the H could actually go back to my vanishing point. Any lines that you can possibly bring back to your vanishing point, like my E's. The lines on my E's, I actually just have enough room to write shoe instead of shoes. All right, but there, I've got shoe. Okay, now if I wanted to add in some long lines to my building, maybe some long windows, then I'm going to do this. I don't have to use the edge there. That's just kind of a nice edge, nice placement. I'm going to put 3 lines here. There we go. We're going to make those a little bit shorter. My windows are going to go back like this, all connecting. And then simply what I'll do to end those is just draw in my ending line like that. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make those 3-dimensional windows, because they're below my horizon line, that means I can see a bottom and a side, but because I'm on this side, I have to go from that far corner. What if I wanted to add on some things on top of some of these boxes? Like I wanted to put an air conditioner on the top of this one. Simply, all I would do is start with my line. Okay, so these are boxes on top of boxes. Top and bottom go back to the vanishing point. I'm actually going to draw this side a little bit bigger, and it's going to overlap that one. And there I've got a little box on top of it. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to add a cylinder on top of this? Well, what I would do is I would do the same method, but remember, in fact, let's do a kind of a big one right here. And I'm gonna have it end below my horizon line on purpose. So remember, whenever you're doing a cylinder, you almost want to make it about twice as big as you want the cylinder to be in the end. Now, the closer I am to my horizon line, the narrower my oval will be at the top. In fact, this is going to be really, really super skinny. So before I get too much further, I want to erase these extra lines that I'm seeing through here. I may have done this a little bit too close because we are barely gonna see what is happening at the top here. So at the top, because I'm so close to my horizon line, I'm barely seeing but a sliver of an oval right here at the top. At the bottom, when I take these edges, I will also have a pretty shallow curve at the bottom here. So remember, the whole purpose of drawing a, when you're drawing a cylinder, the purpose of drawing a rectangle first is so that you can see how, basically, how narrow the oval is and how it changes the further away that you get from your vanishing point. What if I wanted to put a cylinder on top of this? Well, something different happens with that. We can no longer see, I'm going to put a pretty tall one right here. We can't see the bottom of this cylinder because it's being hidden by this roof line right here. Now, what I would do is I would take the halfway point here, and I'm simply going to put in an arched line. The side of it is going to go straight up and down like that. And then I would erase these extra lines. Okay? Because what happens is when you're above the horizon line, you are no longer seeing the top of the cylinder. You are seeing only really the side of it and an arched line above it. So it's a very thin arched line, and then it becomes more and more and more of a semicircle line, just like these lines do right there. Okay, now if we were drawing a cylinder that it was floating above, like we could actually, like it was hovering, then we could actually see a little bit of this down here. Okay, and as it got further above us, then we would start to see more and more. Kind of like that. All right. Now for other buildings that would be behind these buildings right here, all you're going to do, you want to always start always start with the corner lines and then build your buildings from there. And so if I wanted to put a building that was behind this one, but maybe not in the front here, let's put it like back over here. Then what I would do is I would simply come in and draw my corner line. I can't see the top or the bottom of it. Just like this, and then I would erase my horizon line going through my box. If I wanted to add openings on the side, then I'm gonna, you know, just simply draw lines. Always making sure that I'm connecting back to my vanishing point for this side. For the other side, it would be the same. Now, if I wanted to take these, add one more row here so that I can make some windows here. Oop, I need one more. Now, leave a little bit of space. Okay, and then I would just erase these little lines right there, just like that. So that's how you would make those windows here. Now, one little thing is, because these windows are above my horizon line, that means that I'm gonna see the top and the side of these. So let me just do one of them. I'm gonna do a little line right there, okay, from the corner. The top is gonna go back this direction, and then the side of it is going to come from that corner and go straight down, just like that. Okay, and then you've got your window right here, basically just like that. Okay, so remember a couple of things. Anything that is above your horizon line is going to arc upwards or curve upwards. If it is below the horizon line, then it is going to arc down, or it's going to curve down, just like this. All lines, as much as possible, have got to connect back to, if they're on the right side of your corner, they're going to connect over here. If they're on the left side, then they're going to connect over here. When you're below your horizon line, you will see the tops, the sides of buildings. When you're over and above the horizon line, for a cityscape anyway, you will only see two sides of your building.